Well, okay, it's 5 o'clock. We're going to call the meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, before we do the roll call, just wanted to let everybody know, obviously I'm filling in for Ellis. He's recuperating from a procedure. He's doing well. I spoke to him last week. So we send him our best. I'm sure he'll be back for the next meeting and you can get rid of me. We also have two new board members joining us, Ryan Gilroy and Anthony Lucente.
Welcome.
So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Bova, Mr. Brodsky,
Here.
Mr. D'Elia, Mr. Dodge,
Here.
Mr. Ford,
Here.
Mr. Gilroy,
Here.
Mr. Karam,
Here.
Mr. Lucenti,
Here.
Mr. Santacroce, Mr. Saunders,
Here.
and Mr. Wallace.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, you've got the minutes from the March 16th meeting in your packet. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at those?
Yes, sir.
Could I have a motion to approve the minutes as written? Second. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Carried.
Do you want it now?
Yep, okay, now is the presentation of the 2025 audit. So Nicole,
So our auditors are here today. They're from Dark Angelo. We got Nicole Chubbuck, who's the partner, and Andrew Muchika, who's the manager. Did I get that right? Okay, I got it right. They're here to, we had a audit committee meeting beforehand. They presented the audit in more detail. They're going to go through and do a 10-minute presentation for you, just go through the highlights of the audit. So take it away.
All right. As Jim mentioned, I'm Nicole Chubbuck from Dark Angelo and Company. In front of you, I think you all have a copy of the issued audited financial statements, a bound copy. Inside that copy, kind of stuck in the cover, is the required communication letter. And then I also provided you with a printout of this presentation in case you'd rather follow along yourselves instead of looking at the screen. Okay, and with that, like Jim mentioned, we did just go through this in detail with the audit committee, so I'm going to try to keep it to kind of a high-level overview for you folks now. We do issue 4 different reports as part of the audit. The first one is the report on the financial statements themselves. So I'm pleased to report we did issue a clean or unmodified opinion on the audit of the financial statements. So what that means is that we believe the financials are free from any material misstatements, and also they're in accordance with GAAP. So that's the result you're looking for as a board, so that's great. Additionally, we had no deficiencies in internal controls identified, so no significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses. We did go over some kind of best practice recommendations with management, but nothing that rose to the level of the deficiency. We also are required to report on compliance. So under government auditing standards, we issue what's known as the Yellow Book report, and I'm happy to report we had no instances of non-compliance. So another clean report there. The third report we issue is what's known as the single audit report. That's because your organization expends more than $1 million in federal awards. So because of that, you're required to have what's known as a single audit, in addition to your normal financial statement audit, where we kind of do a deep dive into the compliance requirements applicable to the grants that you receive. I'm happy to report, again, we issued an unmodified opinion on your major federal programs in accordance with the single audit. So it's another clean opinion. That's what you're looking for. No deficiencies and internal controls over compliance to note there either. So again, a great result. And then lastly, that bottom bullet there, that's required because you are an authority. So we have to issue a report that we've noted no non-compliance with the investment policy or the guidelines and rules that are spelled out in section 2925 of the New York State Public Authorities Law. So during our audit, we did not know any non-compliance with those items, and that's what that last report is saying. So it's a great result, what you're looking to see as a board. I'm also happy to report we had no difficulties encountered in performing our audit. Management, staff, everybody is very professional, very responsive, cooperative. They get us everything we need, and I know we ask for a lot, so we appreciate their cooperation in that process. No disagreements with management. We're not aware of any other consultations with any other accountants, and we had no misstatements noted during the audit. So just kind of a brief overview. I won't go into too much detail here like we just did with the audit committee, but this is kind of a snapshot of what your statement of financial position looked like at the end of the year. So you can see total assets about 179 million as of the end of the year, the vast majority of that in your net utility and plant. So that's going to be all of the capital construction additions, net your depreciation. So obviously the vast majority on that line. You also have some non-current assets that are primarily your investments that you have in treasuries. That's going to be those proceeds from the bonds that you put into U.S. treasuries while they're waiting to be spent. And then the final portion that I haven't mentioned yet is the current assets on top, about 52 million. That's going to be, receivables, cash, inventory, things like that. And then looking at the liabilities section, you can see total liabilities of about 99 million at the end of the year. That is up about 9.2 million from the prior year. Again, you can see there the vast majority is in those bonds and notes payable, and the increase is in that line as well, and that's going to be due to the 2025 bond issuance that you did for 17.2 million, less the current year principal payments made.
On cue.
Other liabilities, 10 million, that's going to be compensated absences, OPEB liability, pension liability, lease obligations, things of that nature. And what's left in that current liability section is really like your day-to-day things, accounts payable, construction payables, accrued liabilities, things of that nature. Leaving you with total net position at the end of the year of about 83.5 million. It did increase about 14 million from the prior year. And we do categorize that into 3 buckets. The first one being the net investment in capital assets, obviously the largest. It's going to be the investment in utility plant and net of any related debt. Your restricted bucket, which consists of 691,000 for repairs and improvement and 5.3 million legally restricted for the current portions of your debt service. And then the unrestricted category, which does include about 4.9 million of board designated funds. So looking at your revenues, expenses, and changes in that position, operating revenues totaled just over 30 million for the year. The vast majority of that revenue is your metered water sales. So $27.7 million of that is your metered water sales. That was an increase this year of about 1.6 million, primarily due to that increase in rates. There was about 5.5% increase in rates during the year, as well as a small, I believe, 0.7% increase in consumption. Also in that operating revenues is things like delinquency fees, ancillary charges, and other services. And then the operating expenses for the year, about 22.1 million, up about 895,000 from the prior year. Included in that is going to be your salaries, your employee benefits, supplies, anything of that nature. About 6.2 million, just to give you a little color, was salaries. About 1.4 million was health and dental. About 1.4 million was health and dental. Is that what I said? And then 4.1 million is the contract for the treatment plant management with that outside management services company. Also in that number is about 3.7 million in depreciation and amortization. And then looking down at the non-operating revenues and expenses, you will see that other line looks fairly large. Included in that other line is about 9.4 million of state and federal grants. So did recognize quite a bit of revenue related to state and federal grants, primarily through New York State EFC, where most of those grant monies are flowing from, leaving you with a change in net position of about 14 million. And then, as I mentioned, the federal grants, which triggered your single audit requirement, this is your schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So you can see total expenditures of federal awards about $6.4 million. Majority of that is in the capitalization grants for drinking water. So that's actually federal funding that's passed through New York State EFC to you. So you have to incur the cost and then they reimburse you. That's how those grants work. Also a small amount of FEMA that flowed through this year, still related to the 2019 flooding damage. That's all I have. Are there any questions for anybody? I know it's a lot of information. Try to squinch it down into a short presentation for you. I didn't know he wouldn't be here, so I was ready to talk really, really fast.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Questions, Freddie? No?
Could I have a motion to accept the audit, please? Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Carried. Okay, next item on the agenda is a resolution for standard workday and reporting resolution. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you,
Andrew.
Thank you.
Very nice job.
Thank you.
Sandra, is that you?
Yes. Okay, so we have, two officials that are appointed by the board. They are Phil Tangora and, Jim Corfanta. They don't participate in the timekeeping system, so they're required to keep a record of activities for a 3-month period. They then submit it to, the secretary clerk of the board, which they did. That is to Amy. She reviewed those record of activities, and the results are on this form that you have in front of you, standard workday and reporting resolution for elected and appointed officials. On this form, you're establishing the standard workday for both individuals as 7 hours. And the record of activities result is also listed on there. That is the number that will be reported to the New York State retirement system as a result of their record of activities.
Anybody have any questions?
Move.
All right, motion. Do we have a second? All those, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Carried. Thank you, Sandra. Okay, next item on the agenda is proposed award of a contract for North Genesee Street Large Valve Insertion Project. Is that you, Dan?
It is. This proposed resolution is for the award of a contract to Mohawk Valley Materials Incorporated for the North Genesee Street Large Valve Insertion Project, where the Mohawk Valley Water Authority requires the installation of a 20-inch insertion valve and a 30-inch gate valve to aid in the shutdown of our transmission mains in conjunction with the upcoming New York State DOT project where they're going to remove and replace both of those bridges. So we currently do not have good valve control in that area, so these valves would be critical for accommodating that shutdown. The Mohawk Valley Water Authority seeks to hire a contractor to perform the valve installation work as it's beyond our means. The advertisement for bids and bidding and evaluation of the contract was conducted in accordance with the procurement policy of the Water Authority. We received 2 bids from contractors, of which Mohawk Valley Materials was the lowest at $643,219.54. And that's within our project budget. The Water Authority has worked with this outfit before, and we called on their references in regard to valve installation work and received good recommendations back. So we're asking the board to consider this for approval.
Any questions for Dan? Could I have a motion to approve the resolution? Second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Carried. Next item is banking proposal, award of banking functions. Jim, is that you or?
Yes, yes. So we went out to bid for our checking account, just how we disperse money. This doesn't include how we process payments, credit card payments, things like that. This is just, we're bringing in some funds, but more importantly for how we disperse, traditional way of writing checks. So we sent out a proposal. We received 4 proposals back. Adirondack Bank, Bank of Utica, M&T, and Citizens Bank. And we went through a detailed grading process, internal committee. The Finance Committee met last week. We presented this to them. You have in front of you, one of your pages is just the summary of the areas that we looked at. So this is money that's coming in and what kind of a banking software that they provide, their platform, how we can invest some of the idle cash that we receive, and what were their fees for those services. And based on our analysis, we're recommending the Bank of Utica.
Any questions for Jim?
No, the finance committee reviewed it last week, as Jim said. We approved their proposal based on our experience with the bank, the cost of the service, which is much less than what we're paying now. The amount of services that they would be providing us, we were pleased. So we're happy to recommend Bank of Utica based on the bid.
Any other questions or comments?
They're totally eliminating the lockbox fee?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Well, what's the, why is Parkway Drugs mentioned in there?
They collect for us.
Well,
They collect all utility bills, so they like to be a collector.
I see.
Yeah, it was just another little feature. It creates a manual process for us, but since they're accepting, so Parkway Drugs will bring their information over to the Bank of Utica and they process it for us.
They do that for, National Grid, telephone bills, things like that, taxes, and, well, not taxes, but, yeah. For years and years. Oh, I'll move it.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor, this is an award to the Bank of Utica of the described banking functions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstention.
Okay. Ryan, yours abstain.
Okay.
Okay, carried. All right, committee reports. Jim, I think that's you too, right? Finance?
It is. In your binder, you have the March report, and I have it somewhere, and I can't find it. Here it is. For the third month of the year, as we discussed before, and we actually brought this up in the Finance Committee meeting, we are down 6% in consumption for the year. Some of the information we provided the Finance Committee was more of a detail of some of the accounts where we've had large decreases in consumption and even accounts that we had increases. So we went through that, and even though it's down 6%, it's between $75,000 and $100,000 decrease in revenue. So it's not that significant, even though we are down 6%. So we're going to continue to monitor this as each month goes by and bring it back to you each month, and if we have to do anything further. But for right now, I think we're cautiously optimistic that if we continue along, we can recover in our consumption and recover in our revenue. But that's the consumption. Water sales for the year were down 83,000 compared to budget, 84,000 compared to the prior year. Cash flow, we're actually up about 600,000 year to date. So we're gonna, as we build that up, we need that for obviously paying larger bills, and towards the end of the year, we're gonna need it for retirement and some of our insurance payments. So we'd like to build cash. First couple months of the year, big decrease because we're paying some of those retirement payments and insurances. So the rest of the year, we're trying to build up cash. Any questions?
I just wanted to share with the board a couple of numbers as we're soon going to be moving into the rate setting for this year, the budget for next year. At our Finance Committee meeting, I handed out a sheet that compared some key financial indicators from 2000 till 2025. And there's just three numbers I wanted to call to your attention. And keep in mind as the staff starts recommending spending and as we deal with rates. Jim had just mentioned one, which was cash. Cash has been pretty stable. End of the year, 2020 was about 14.8 million. End of the year, this 2025 was 15.9. It's gone 14.8, 13.9, 15.16, 15. It's pretty consistent, which is good because cash is important. You don't want to borrow for operating, and that's been good for us. State and federal grants is a big change for this organization, at least over the last 6 years. In 2020, we had $172,000 in federal and state grants. 2022 was 211,000. In 2025, it's 9 million plus. That's a big amount of money. It's important because we've been spending more money. It's bonding mostly covers the cost of capital projects and regulatory compliance. However, it's one of those areas that you need to keep your eye on as a board because this organization does not do it, but many organizations slip into putting regular operating expenses into their grants. It's one thing to get reimbursed for some operating expenses, and we do, indirect costs and that sort of thing, and that does affect operating income. However, you have to be careful because if one-time grants, when they disappear and you've got operating expenses that have been paid for it, now it's an obligation. The organization will affect our rates and rate setting. So it's just something to keep an eye on. It is obviously a very significant amount of our spending now. Metered water.
If I could just add to that, there's really two reasons for that. Obviously, one, there's been a huge influx of federal dollars that came out with the bipartisan infrastructure law or the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So there's more dollars available, at least there has been over the last number of years. But yes, staff has more aggressively pursued those dollars over the last several years too. So, if those dollars still remain out there to be grabbed, we're going to work to try to get those.
Oh, I want to tell you, this organization has been very successful and very positively focused on getting third-party funding for what we are necessary to do. So, I mean, that's a really good thing. But the board obviously needs to be concerned about where income comes, and that's particularly related to metered water sales, which Jim had also mentioned, as a percentage of operating income. For us in 2000 was about 95%. of our operating income was metered water sales. Last year it was 92%. Now 3% may not seem a lot. It's actually for us, if we increase our rates 3%, to be able to get that percentage up, it's about $900,000, $800,000, something like that. But that's still 3% just to try and make up that, depending on where our income would come from. Metered water sales as a percentage of total income is obviously much lower because of the federal money. It's 76%. But that has changed, and federal money has changed. You know, it used to be metered water sales were used to be 115% of our operating income. Now it's down to 76, and that's because of the federal funds. So those are just some numbers to keep in mind. Cash is good. Grants are really successful because we're being required to do things that cost a lot of money to spend. We're not getting the total cost, nowhere near it, but we're getting federal funds as we can, and that's a good thing. But the one that concerns me is metered water sales as a percent of operating income. I think it's something we might want to take a look at as we build budget for next year and as we build our rate schedule and other non-operating income, regular revenue, not one-time revenue, to increase the maybe it's a board it would have to be a board policy of wanting to get that back to where it was 6 years ago. I just think there's some, especially as we improve our services, which we've been trying to do, you know, getting away from a 700-year replacement schedule for pipes. That's going to be dependent on our rates in the future. So something to keep in mind. It's a conversation that the board will have as we get closer to budget and rate setting. But that's the only number that concerned me. Is I really don't want to see that metered water sales as a relationship to operating income go down any further. I think that's a bad practice and one we should talk about as we get into the next couple of years. Yeah. Thank you.
Any questions for Jim? Okay, thanks, Jim, for the report. All right, I think you're up next on the first quarter investment statement.
Yes.
In your binder is a statement of investments. Is that in the other section or? Right behind the, okay. Looks like this. It's three pages. So public authority law requires that we provide you a quarterly investment statement and any income and expenses related to those investments. These funds are primarily from bonding. It's not the earlier banking proposal. Those are operating type of funds that we would invest. These are bonded funds. There are some things in the repair and improvement that we've put in over time, but primarily it's bonded funds. And so we're investing these in treasuries and CDs and different types of repurchase agreements and things like that. So if you look on page 3, you'll see what we've earned in the first quarter, almost $259,000. We budgeted for the year $900,000. So we're ahead of, if you do it on a quarterly basis, about $225,000. So we're a little ahead of what we planned on earning. And again, we still have that issue of arbitrage, especially with our current issue, where we potentially can earn more than what we're paying out. And as you saw in the audit, we had to pay back to the IRS about $250,000. So we keep that in mind but that's beyond what's showing here. We've already set aside any funds that we may have an arbitrage issue with. Any questions?
Is there a threshold where you can't go over?
Well, it's essentially, the quick rule is you can't earn more than what you're paying in interest. So if it's at 4% and we're earning 4.5%, essentially that 0.5% we would have to pay back. But we actually have a firm that goes through and does these calculations for all our issues and issues reports.
Any other questions for Jim on this? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the investment statement? Bruce, second? Bruce? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Carried. Okay, Phil, I think you're up.
All right.
So we moved a month or so ago to a different online payment system for accounts for our customers. Worked through some hurdles there, but we've got about 800, just north, I think, of 800 accounts that are signed up for that. So so far, so good. Hopefully, we'll get more people to take advantage of that. It allows for, they could do recurring payments. They could pay their bill at the time it's due. So there's some options in there to help people perhaps manage their payments a little more easily. Dale and Anthony were at and Jeff as well, went to the meeting at Herkimer College regarding the Eastern Mohawk Valley Transmission Main. Those communities are going to try to regroup and see if they could put a plan together to move forward. Whether they do or not, we will see. If not, there's some alternatives that we could pursue, but I at least wanted to let you know that we did meet and try to at least get some momentum going again. We'll see what happens there.
Who's expressing interest? The usuals?
Yeah, town of Schuyler, town of Herkimer, to a lesser extent, the village of Herkimer and the village of Frankfurt, and I think somewhere in the middle is probably the village of Illing. Would you agree with that?
So, yes.
All the usual characters.
Yeah. Another topic, since COVID, and I've been here quite a while, but when COVID came around, we kind of reevaluated all of, or we had to readjust people's schedules and hours and what they worked. And then we came out of COVID, and I think what happened over that time, there was just kind of a natural progression where, people kind of were able to set their hours a little differently and staggered lunches or took half-hour lunches or hour lunches. And one of the provisions of our strategic plan that we went through was to establish policies and procedures that were applied uniformly across all departments. So we had a internal committee get together and kind of look at our staffing and our hours of operation and how we could move this forward. So I spoke with the chairman, and what we're going to do is do a pilot program for this summer. And essentially that will change our hours from 8:30 to 4 instead of 4:30. And everybody will take a half-hour lunch instead of some take an hour now, some take a half hour. It'll standardize the workplace. I think we need to return to more standard operating procedures for departments. So just wanted to let you know that we'll be pushing out some information to the public on that. Amy pulled a bunch of data about our call volume in that last half hour of the day, as well as what we have for walk-in service for the laboratory services that we offer. The impact is very minimal in that last half hour of the day, so we don't anticipate any real problems with that. So it's a pilot. We'll reassess it at the end of the summer, but we'll be putting out some information soon, just so you're all aware that starting May 26th until September 4th, hours of operation will be 8:30 to 4 p.m. And then we'll go from there. Drinking Water Week, it's one of those nationally recognized weeks. There's a week or a month for everything, but Drinking Water Week is May 3rd through 9th. So we're going to take advantage of that opportunity to do a targeted public awareness campaign related to some of the issues that we face and some of the opportunities to educate the public. So we've got the ePay, right, to online account access, as well as the Everbridge, the water alerts that we're going to try to notify and kind of push people to sign up for if there's any disruption of service, if there's any programs that we should notify our customers about. We're going to just do some targeted outreach there. We'll obviously talk about our summer hours during this outreach as well. Everybody should know that our annual water quality report, which I reported on last month, is available. We just want to make sure the public has the ability to access that, and if they have any questions, to reach out to us. And the last thing would be the addition of the phosphate chemical, which will occur later this year. It's a good time to at least start pushing that out into the public, that we continue to work towards compliance with the lead and copper rule, and a major factor in that compliance going forward is the addition of phosphates. So we'll be pushing that out. I've been working with the Page Group, and we'll be doing some outreach either on social media and different avenues there, as well as through our website, to try to just inform the public of some of these opportunities that they have to perhaps be a little more engaged and educated on drinking water. Hinckley is at the brim. So, right, we talked last month about how it was at its minimum level on March 8th, and by April 1st, it was spilling. In fact, there was some downstream flooding, and I was on Talk of the Town to talk a little bit about some of that impact on those communities, and you know, the non-impact it has on drinking water. And I need to talk with the chairman when he returns. What I'd like to propose to do is every couple months, maybe 4, maybe 5 times a year, spend 10 to 15 minutes going over some of the concerns that we're going to be facing, just to educate the board about, you know, where are we headed in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So whether that's the cost of infrastructure, I think regulatory updates, there's so many regulations that are pressing against drinking water utilities right now. We're not unique in this situation, but I think it would help the board guide some of their decision-making process if they know just a little bit more of the background of what we're looking at going forward. The lead and copper rule improvements, so, you know, we've already invested significant time and dollars and resources to identifying and starting to remove lead services. That's probably a $60 million effort, but that is only one small portion of what this federal rule will force drinking water systems to do. And so I think it's important that the board knows that. Everything from public awareness campaign, the specified number of times for outreach to individual homes for lead service line replacements, providing, the water authority will have to provide pitcher filters to people after a lead service line replacement when this rule goes into effect. So there's a lot of additional costs that are going to go into this. It would be helpful for the board to see where we're headed just for compliance with this one rule, but a major rule. Perhaps our capital plan, we could talk a little bit more about, you know, our 5 and perhaps 20-year capital plan, and whatever else you want. I just think it'd be good moving forward. We'll try to do it. I would say 4 to 5 times a year is probably good enough, and then we can revisit it as needed, as we have new board members come in, or just to, you know, re-educate the board on a basis. So, I think that would be good, and we'll see where we end up. Maybe we could do something in May or June to get us started. In educating the board, we also educated our staff. Dan, a number of his staff, and the lab staff were at the New York water event last week in Saratoga. There's a wonderful technical education there that's put on annually in the spring. And I was down in DC asking for dollars from our senators and our congressional reps, and trying to, you know, make sure that they know about the financial burden that drinking water systems are on. So we're trying to establish a stronger relationship with those offices, and hopefully that'll help us out going forward. And most of this is tied to our strategic plan too, that we reviewed last year. So we could actually get that out. Amy, if we haven't, maybe we'll get it out to all the board members again. Sure. So, okay. Any questions?
Nice picture on Facebook.
LinkedIn, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Any old business? Any new business? All right, we have a matter for executive session tonight. So I'm gonna need a motion to go into executive session to discuss collective bargaining negotiations with the Teamsters Union.
Motion?
Mark Ford moved, Bruce Bronski second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we're in an executive session.